Hey, you're listening to episode 73 of the Spiritual Seekers Podcast, interview with Veronica Paduch. Veronica Paddock is a holistic healer who rents the space at a Moon Magic. I recently decided that I'd like to speak to her to get to know her better and hear her story and share it with you guys. Hope you enjoy listening in. The Spiritual Seekers Podcast brings topics of a metaphysical nature to you from a grounded perspective. I'm a spiritual intuitive healer, Reiki master teacher, and owner of Moon Magic, a spiritual wellness center and metaphysical store in northern New Jersey. I've got 20 plus years of professional experience, and with that, lots of stories to tell. I'm hoping that by sharing them with you, it'll help to validate your own spiritual journey. I get that the topics I love to share may be too taboo in certain company, which is why I created this podcast in the first place. You are definitely not alone, and certainly not crazy. If nothing else, I promise to entertain. However, my true intention in sharing is to affirm your own experiences. I'm excited to share this library of stories from my spiritual journey in this sacred space that I've created. So get comfortable, whether you're going for a walk, making dinner, driving, or whatever else you may be doing with me in your ears. And let's go. Hey, so today I'm speaking with Veronica Paduch, who is a holistic practitioner who uses the space at Moon Magic. So I figured it would be a good chance for you guys to get to know her and for me to get to know her. So welcome, Veronica.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen, so much for having me and allowing me to be in your sacred space and do my energy healing. Like I had said previously several times, that my clients truly enjoy being in your space. There's something about it that's magical. They feel warm, welcome, and that they really enjoy being there. So thank you for everything that you've done and inviting me into your world with the other ladies at Moon Magic.
Yeah, no, it's been nice. And it was back in I guess June or something where I talked about needing renters at my Woodcliff Lake space. And I sent out an email saying that, and then you responded to the email, but the Woodcliff Lake space doesn't want loud noises or smoke. And you're like, oh, I can't wait to play my gong there and burn some. I go, oh, no, you can't do that in an office space. But I said, but you can do it at Moon Magic. So it's worked out that you're there one day a week, sometimes 2 days a week. And that it was just let me talk to her, make sure she's not crazy. You never know who you're making agreements to. And then we spoke on Zoom and it was just okay, cool, you're in. And then we met at we did a potluck, a couple, somewhere in the beginning of the summer. But so it's nice for me to get to know you in real time here. So I appreciated the story I've read of you and what you've written in your, I don't know if it's your website or if it was on Facebook or whatever, but your summary. So tell us about how you ended up becoming the healer that you are. Just, real quick. I mean, you can go back to the beginning or you can go backwards in time, however you want to, get into
it. It's always funny. Everybody's like, well, what's your story? How did you get into this? And there's a lot of different angles that I could look at it. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning, I was actually interested in this stuff when I was a kid and didn't know it.
Right.
Which was fun until I didn't reflect on it until more recently, actually, right. When I started thinking about it. I enjoyed going to Paramus Park Mall and they had the Natural Company or something like that. And I actually picked up some crystals, which happened to be clear quartz, rose quartz, and snowflake obsidian. And somewhere along the line, I picked up a crystal ball at Barnes and Nobles and a deck of tarot, French tarot cards. This just because they were of interest to me. This is probably when I was, I guess, around high school age. And I dabbled in it, played in it a little bit. And then somewhere along the line, I grew a brain that I needed to make money and support myself. So I sold my soul to the devil, in corporate world and the brokerage world for 30 years of my life. And I got to a point where I realized I wasn't happy. I actually became depressed. And I didn't know how to get out of it. I was seriously stuck. I would go to work, 8 to 12 hour days, depending on what the season was.
Mm-hmm.
Drive home an hour, go to bed, go to sleep. Or if I got home at 5 o'clock, I would come home and just, be miserable and go to bed. Like,
Yeah.
and that's very unusual for me, because anybody that knows me, I'm a bubbly, like, happy person, half glass full kind of thing.
Right.
So having gone through that, a manager of mine that was a manager of mine, she was transitioning out of corporate into being a creativity coach using Kaizen tools. So she knew me from way back when. She's like, you know what, I'm doing this coaching, can I help you out? Do a session, see if that's something that feels good to you. And I said, yeah, let me get started with that. So that was about 2015 is when I started that type of coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when things started to really come to fruition and start rolling forward, that I realized, okay, now it's time to shift. Something's not right. Something's wrong. My body's feeling it. There's a battle inside and it's ugly, So once I started with her to try to get back to being happy through using her tools, I took a class, Science of Happiness, for free online. And that really started things to open up. So it was like one thing and then the other. So I took the Science of Happiness course, and then it's like, well, what else is going on here? And then I realized somewhere in there that because of having back problems, you had to eat right, exercise, look at what you're eating, drink more water. And my chiropractor never told me any of those things. So through that research, I realized, oh, well, I like Ayurveda. Like, I'm interested in that kind of stuff. So as I was poking around with that information, like maybe that's where to go, then I started seeing, like, Google, and they throw in these different ads. Right. So I started seeing ads for like health coaching school. I had looked at a couple different places because I'm like, well, that fit. So I wound up going to Institute for Integrative Nutrition online. Mm-hmm. And it was funny. And with that, I saw ads for crystals. So it's like, okay, that was like, things were being fed to me.
Right.
So I finished one thing, something else started. With my work, it was really hard to try to balance. Like, I come home from a day of work and be like, okay, cool, I get to go to school online. And it was whenever I was able to go, which was perfect.
Right.
And I managed all of that. And it was like, okay, well, let's see what else we can do. So different courses started showing up, and I was like, okay, when I have time, I'm really going to do this now. I also had another trigger there, which was 2016. Another trigger was a friend of mine. My hairdresser is intuitive, so of course she has intuitive friends. Mm-hmm. And I was like, do you know anybody that's a really good tarot card reader? Like, I feel like I need to get my cards done. I haven't done that in like years and years and years, because a lot of times I felt that those people were just charlatans.
Right.
They, like, you have how many people read my hand, and you're going to get married and have 3 kids. I'm like, well, I'm still single and never been married. So, mm-hmm. Hey. So she's like, okay, I'll give you his number. He's really, really good. I said, okay. So it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. This is what I needed to do. Right. So we had a snowstorm, and I'm like, oh my God. And I got this like download, which I've never had before or realized that I had. And I was like, oh my God, I need to have my card read. He's like, okay, I'm up by my cousin's house. Once I get out of the snow, well, we're going to set you up the minute I come back. Like, he understood the urgency. So it was fun. The minute I met him for that session, I knew him. And I never had that experience before, where he walked in the door, I'm like he was my mentor. Right. I knew him. I've never seen him before. I knew that feeling, and it was so amazing. And he was saying, he's like, I sense like you're into crystals, or like, you're my crystal girl. And I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? Like, mm-hmm. I don't know anything about crystals, so this is at a period of where I was totally corporate, doing all kinds of, wearing the suit and all that other stuff. But the shifting just started happening gradually. So I was like, oh, then I started getting into classes with Doreen Virtue online of how to work with crystals, and Louise Hay, and reading books, and really starting to get into all of that, while I was in integrative nutrition school. So it was like, okay, once that's done, what's next, kind of thing. Right. And then I wound up in a car accident. Boom. Mm-hmm. I was at it literally for 10 months. And it's like, well, what do I do now? Like, I was kept testing myself, every day on how to do my job. And I found that wasn't helpful to my healing. I had pain in my legs. I could barely walk. I couldn't really drive, and I shouldn't have been driving, but I had to get to the doctors. Getting off the toilet in the bathroom, I know that's a little TMI, but I couldn't push myself up because my back was screwed up. I had herniated discs in the top and the bottom of my back, and I had bad whiplash. I had pain in my fingers. I couldn't feel things. Like, it was really a lot of nerve pain. It was bad. So I was like, well, what do I do? I can't walk. I can't type. I can't do anything but lay down. So I was like, okay, I need mind candy. So then I started like doing these courses of everything that I was gonna do when I had time.
Right.
I could watch a video on my laptop.
Mm-hmm.
So I started taking a lot of courses that way, and just absorbing them and then laying outside and tanning. That was the other thing. So I was like, okay, cool. So I kept busy. So as I was feeling better, I started tapping more and more into the spiritual energy and learning. And then I had gone back to work after 10 months. I had basically forgotten how to do my job. I needed to be retrained how to be a manager again, which was insane after doing it for how many years. It's like I couldn't remember how to log into my computer.
Wow.
Staff was so happy that I was back, and they're like, oh, everything's changed. You're going to fix it. We're going to be happy again, and I'm like, my plan was to leave you guys at some point anyway and go on this new path that I've seen the light. Like I don't have to be stressed out and yelled at all day long.
Right.
I can do more, outside the box of this building and do it on a grander scale for like so many other people and make them feel good about themselves and find out who they are, what's their authentic purpose, where to fit in the world, how to be happy. That's really my end goal, is to make people happy, right?
Right.
Long story short, I work in a complex, so they had different offices besides the main hub. So one was in Paramus, and I was like, listen, let me go there and train because I don't know what I'm doing. And it was at home because I could drive 4 miles versus like 20-25 miles one way. 4 miles was a lot easier.
Right.
And having doctor appointments and pain. Then I just turned around and said, you know what? I said to my boss, I said, let's rip off the Band-Aid. And before I get fully integrated back into the office, and then again, I make the choice to leave, I'd rather do it now when I've left them already and they're not. And oh my God, I cried making that decision.
Yeah.
But it was the right one. It was the right one. So that's kind of how, and I wound up leaving that spot. I'll leave the gory details for another day, but I decided to leave the brokerage business after 30 years on my own.
Right.
And then COVID hit. And oddly enough, COVID was a beautiful thing because then I had purposeful time to learn more. So that's where I got more into like learning access consciousness, the bars, learning those tools, taking the crystal healing courses to be able to do that, shamanism, and singing bowls, all of that. Like now I had the time to, and not be doing a full-time job. I wasn't working per se. So I was learning all that time and honing my skill. And then I had a space at a yoga studio that I was able to, practice on people. So I didn't have to worry about trying to do it in my house. And it really it was so fantastic. When I went back to work, it was like this.
Yeah.
This was who I used to be. This is who I am now. And I could feel that inner battle every single day when I went to work. Like it tore at my heart. Like I'm really good with people, but you're not who you were. No, this space doesn't work for me anymore. And people are really mean. Like they just, and I was like, no, I don't want to live in that world anymore. And things are just coming along. And the fun thing with some of this too is I have a different relationship with my parents too, because they believe in me. Like my father, he's like, I never thought you would have left your brokerage business after all those years of going through all those licensings that I basically threw away now.
Right.
And time, and to do something completely different. He goes, but we're so proud of you. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow, now they're proud of me. Before they couldn't figure out what the hell I did. Now they know what I do. I'm like, this is all kind of weird stuff.
Yeah.
But now they ask for healing sessions, both of them, which I would have never imagined in a million years. So it's amazing because mom has back problems. I mean, her spine's an S and her body's basically crushing itself. My father had gone through cancer. We found that out in the same year, 2017, that I was in the accident. So, now I have all these tools, not just to work and help myself, but I can help the family and other people too. And the best part is that it shows up when you go to the doctor, which is great. My father's getting a PET scan done and it shows up that things aren't getting worse, or they're getting better. Or I've had other patients or not patients, but clients where they had cancer also. Not saying I'm a cancer fixer, but it just proves that, believing and energy work does work in tandem with what the doctors do. It's a nice extra alternative practice to add in and de-stress people. I mean, it's just amazing what it can do.
That's really cool. Trained in access bars.
Yes.
Was that one of the first ones that you did?
The first education I'd say I had was integrative nutrition. I had that. I finished that up and I just graduated in May of 2017. And then I got rear-ended in June of 2017, like a couple of weeks later, and my whole life changed.
Crazy.
So I had, like I said, I had started getting into the crystal work with Doreen Virtue stuff. I also was working more with oracle decks. I had a huge interest on taking a life purpose course, which that's fun. I'd like to play with that here and there. I don't usually read for people, for sales. I just do it when you get that
extra urge. Yeah,
that urge.
Clarity,
or like you get
insight.
Yeah, I always say I get told, but you get the download or the ping or whatever it is that everybody calls. Then I'll just be like, hold on, let me grab a bunch of cards and we'll do them. But otherwise, I don't do that as a regular.
For the bodywork stuff, the access bars, was that one of the first bodywork things, or was the shamanism?
Shamanism was a year-long practice. So that was really, I guess, my second one. And then the bars and then crystals were after that. And then the singing bowls was after that.
Can you explain the access bars? I've received it like twice from two different people and none of them recently. If you could give anybody who's listening an explanation of how the access bars work and what that's about.
Okay. Well, the access bars are 32 points on the head, and it relates to different areas of your life, whether it be health, sexuality, body, money, control, like form and structure. Those are different things that we work with every single day. When there's 13 points on the head, 32 points on the head. And if you touch your head, I'm just going to show you, and you put your hands behind your ears a little bit, you're going to feel with your three fingers that it's almost like a human bowling ball, your head.
Like little,
and it's just for your fingers. Like it's right after that bony bone part. And it's like right behind it, you'll feel, oh, look, I have indentations in my head. Right. So those are the bars, and they're located in various areas of your head. And what they do is you store so much in your head, like considerations from what you see on TV that you're being told to feel, told to react like. You're constantly receiving all these messages from everybody and how to be, how to look, how to where that, and it's stored in your body, but in these bars. And with the access, what we do is we release them. How I look at it is we open up the energy field a little bit, get it warmed up, and then everything gets released out of your body into the universe. We kind of seal it in afterwards. So what doesn't serve you any longer gets kind of cleaned out and doesn't come back. I always get all wrapped up when I start talking about this stuff. It's so much fun. It's like playtime all the time. Right. But with the bars, work on different areas, and everybody has a different reaction to it. Some people get more relaxed. Some people fall asleep. It does help with sleep. It does help with testing. So if your kid, they're stressed about a test the night before, you can do the bars on them, and they will not worry about what their grade's going to be. It takes away that stress level. It also has like an 85% impact on anxiety and depression, which is fantastic. Mental Health Awareness Month is September, October, so that's a good little shout out there. And it just, people, they feel different. They feel lighter. and it helps, open up their awareness.
But do people come to you for just that, or do they come for you for just like open-ended, and then like in the midst of it, you decide which avenue to go down, or is it like decided?
It's kind of a mix, actually.
Yeah, I don't think so, because I mean that's just what happens when you're a healer, like you just draw on all your tools. So I just was curious. Like I know that you have like practice groups with access bars. So that's one aspect of how you use the space at Moon Magic. But like just so, like because people are like, I had someone ask me today, like, oh, do you do craniosacral with your massage? Because I think I didn't write that in my description for the first time session, but I wrote that in the description for the first time Reiki session, not the first time. So it's like, oh yeah, of course, like I always do. Whatever the body needs is what I'll do. So I don't really discriminate, like if that's what's calling me, I'll do it, So I figured the same was true for you, but I wasn't sure, like, do people seek you out for one type of modality over another, or they come across you on social media and you speak their language, like, like how they find you and what they're drawn to. I'm just curious how they get there.
It's what resonates with what the person is willing and comfortable with, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I have my own website, which is a hot mess right now. So so I gear people, it's for the old me. Like I had my website geared for spine health.
Right.
And then that was really a very tiny dot of who I am now.
Right.
So trying to get that redone. That's all, that's
another project.
Yeah. So everything's now referred to Facebook page and Instagram, what I do.
Right.
A lot of it also is referrals from friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have an Access Consciousness website profile. So through there, they kind of funnel people through on the Access Consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a couple different places of where the information comes through. And I also do some stuff on Groupon, and I've met some people through there, and I have some offers through there. It's funny. Some people don't like the bars. For whatever reason. They don't feel like it does anything for them. I've done the crystals on, and they can't get out of their heads, so they like the bars in the singing bowls.
Mm-hmm.
Some people like everything. So but it's what they're open to and what they're comfortable with. You must find this with the Reiki, where, some people, it doesn't work for them, then they go see a chiropractor or something because they think that'll work for them instead. And, I leave it open. It's their choice. And some people, once I get them in the door, say with something that they know, which is crystals, right? That's been around for a long time. Access Consciousness has only been around for about 20 some odd years, 20, 25 years. So it's still kind of new, but people know crystals. They see it everywhere. People are selling them. It's on eBay, Etsy, there's all kinds of stuff on YouTube, but Access, there really isn't. And it's not just the bars with Access either. There's other additional body processes that I do, which is Access Energetic Facelift, which is great for the immune boosting, but it's more called facelift because of where you're placing the hands on the body. It's around the face, you're working on the eyes and the head and everything, and you kind of pull it up. It can help with your hair, have your face glow, but it's definitely a great immune system booster. Like there's some people that they work in a dentist's office and they'll run the energy on their feet, and that person's recovery time will happen faster. So if it's normally a week, it's cut in half. Mm-hmm. Which actually, I ran that process on my mother after she fell and broke her nose. Was unpleasant, but she did heal faster than she would have, had I not been there and done anything. Also, and there's body processes too. There's just different energies, and you're just touching the small of somebody's back and maybe the crown on their head. Mm-hmm. And there's so many different processes. There's like 60 different body processes. So like when somebody comes to me, say for crystals, I do a workup of like, okay, what's going on with you? How you doing? So that's where kind of the integrative nutrition part comes in of, all right, what's up? And a lot of times it's depression or anxiety, and they're already on meds. And I'm like, well, did they change your food? Like where are they with you? So I start kind of going through that. And sometimes I may turn around and pull some cards off the top of my head. If I get the ping before I leave the house, I'll bring certain decks of cards, and I'll bring certain crystals that I get the download for to work with them on, because that's what I'm supposed to do with them on that day. And if I'm supposed to bring some extra singing bowls, well, hey, they get everything. Give what they're their body is asking. So it's really kind of neat to kind of tune into people that way before you even meet them.
Yeah.
And then what happens also is sometimes when I hear through like a crystal healing, they'll say certain things and I'm like, and then I'll lead into like a shamanic healing, which is really, it's me journeying for them and helping them to come in contact with the emotions of what is trapped in their body, either causing pain or an anxiety. It could be a number of things.
What happens in a shamanic session with you? How does that look?
I hate to say, but at times there's crying.
For who? You or the client?
for the client, because not everybody is able to or desires to connect with their feelings, their emotions. That's why they've been suppressed and cause pain in the body in the first place.
Right.
Because something happened either that they're aware of or that they're unaware of that just is sitting somewhere in their body.
Right.
It could be in their knee, their arm, wherever. And they just don't want to go there with it. But sometimes another modality, another healing will open that person up to a place where they're ready to let that go. Mm-hmm. So what I do is I open up sacred space, call in the 4 directions, ask, spirit animals, their spirit guides to come in and be present during the session so that it's safe and sacred space. We kind of go through what they're looking to work on that day. Like what's going on with them? What's their hiccup? Like what's happening that's so forefront in their head that they want to work on. Mm-hmm. And we kind of talk it out and you feel the energy of where the triggers are. Right. And then I have a medicine bundle that we have them choose a stone from. Right. And we have them kind of gather their feelings and thoughts and blow it into the stone. Mm-hmm. And I check which chakras on the body are affected with a pendulum. And it's a little different than if it's on like a crystal healing. It's not the same kind of energy that you're working with, because you're working with a particular issue that's stored in a particular chakra or area of the body. Mm-hmm. When you're working with regular crystals, you're just working with the energy field itself. You're not working with a particular issue. Right. So I have one client where I have like 5 different pendulums, but I have one specific for my shaman work and one that I use specifically for my crystals, for crystal healing. Right. And I used both, asking the different things, and chakras that were affected were totally different. And the way the pendulum swings was totally different. Right. So it's very different information that you're working with. Yeah. But so whatever we work with, whatever the lowest affected chakra is, and so say it's the root chakra is the lowest affected one, I'll put the stone on that area, and we kind of go through a little bit of conversation to bring that person back to the last time they remember how they felt that way. And it's a lot with feeling, like, okay, when do you remember was the last time? And you kind of go into the story that they're living with. Right. But a lot of times people may have the same relationship over and over and over again, but they keep going there and they just don't realize it. And sometimes it'll go back to when they're a child, that they remember feeling this icky feeling in their stomach or in wherever in their body. And then we start kind of diving into it. And I'll ask questions, or we just leave the space open and they start sharing, because now they're triggered, they're releasing. And like I said, sometimes it can be such a moment for them that they're tearing because they're having these flash memories. Yeah. And they're releasing it, and we have them blow it into the stone and send all that energy down to the stone, so that the stone takes it away from them. Or some other things you run into is needing to cut cords that they may be attached to, somebody else they gave their love to, and they're just attached themselves to it. So we may cut cords or, send them back. Sometimes there's even entities in the body, which, you don't tell the person about because they would totally freak out. A lot of this is you're doing it, they're trusting you, it's quiet, and you don't alert them. If there's a loved one that comes and shows up, you let them know that so and so is there to connect with them and support them, but you don't tell them all this other stuff. And a lot of times maybe there's journeying most times there's journeying because they're not releasing something, and all this you can sense. I'm sure you sense this with the work that you do. And I'll do a little bit of journeying, a little bit of rattling, and go either into the upper world or the lower world to try to get that information from spirit guides or what have you. Or if they do soul retrieval, because the soul part, they may have been in such a horrific event that part of their soul actually left and hid. They didn't get it back until the body itself is, ready to receive that soul part back.
Right.
So it's not a cookie cutter. It's not like doing a crystal healing. You throw some crystals on and, it's done in a certain amount of time. This can, you do whatever the body's ready to handle. You can't dig deep. Certain things have to come in layers. You can't just go in and do a soul healing when the body doesn't know which way is up.
Right.
But regardless, at the end of it, everything stems from somewhere, and we run it until the chakras will, get cleared of whatever that particular thing is, and the most that we can do at that time. Most times, the chakras will be cleared. I'll bring in some moonlight and, put that into the different chakras because, once you clear them, you want to put something in that's nice and happy, maybe some sunlight or, the starlight, and kind of seal that in. And that person just feels relieved, like anything else. They feel relieved, they feel amazing. And at times what can happen is a couple of days later, like I've had somebody who didn't mourn a death of a family member, and it took them 3 days before they actually grieved. And that was something that was brought up during the healing, but it was in a piece from the other part. So everything seems to be connected. And even with the access consciousness, things like kind of bubble up. It's not like an onion. The onion, you just peel the layer and it's gone. But when you're dealing with the bubbles, it just kind of, you don't know where it's going to come from, the next set of bubbles. And they just rise up when it's time to be worked on. And I think that's an amazing thing that we can do with the energy healing, regardless of which one it is. It doesn't matter. That's why I enjoy so many.
I know, it is neat. It's like it integrates. It might take a couple days to integrate fully. So I know, I always love that. After like a session, I'll be like, the next day or later that day, I cry. Or, oh, that's right, I had that session. That's right. Clearing some stuff out, making the way. So I don't know, is there anything like you have coming up soon that you want, like, or do you host any workshops or classes or anything like that? Or you mostly host the gatherings for the access bars? Like, is there anything you want to promote, in other words?
I am teaching an access bars class at the end of the month in my home. It's on October 29th, Halloween weekend. Right. I also do like facelift stuff, and like I try to kind of go with the flow, what's working, what's not working, what people are into, and that's where I kind of popcorn what classes I do. I was doing a couple stress relief classes online, and that worked for a little bit, then not do it because, people want to be out and they want to see people now. So that's another thing that I'll be working on, down the road. I'm also working on doing like group sessions for people, whether it be in their home or at a park, whatever. They want to have like a girl party. So we could do a crystal healing for the girls, or even a singing bowl, meditation, healing for a group, like I said, at somebody's house or in a space, which I think is kind of fun. And there's a new one that I did that I really had a good time with, which was I hate to say the word couples, but it's for two people. I did it for a mother and a daughter, like off the cuff, and it was so much fun. Where it was a workshop. And I don't schedule that. I'm like, if somebody wants it, then I'll do it. And what the workshop is I bring all my bowls and I set it up that each person gets, 3 bowls and different mallets to try to test to see how to play a singing bowl. What's the effect of the singing bowl? Right. And I will do some different layouts with them and work on the body, but I allowed their partner, friend, whomever, to do it on that other person, so they get involved in that healing.
Right.
With and it really, for the mother-daughter, it was an amazing experience, that they really felt like, I'm healing mommy, like this is cool. And they were more connected after that session. They're like, wow, this is phenomenal. So that's another thing that I enjoy doing. So integrating, my medicine and teaching others it's fun.
Yeah. So people can reach out to you if they're, whether they want to see you at my space or at another location or whatever. And then you'll also be at the event I'm hosting on November 13th too, right?
Yes.
You'll be doing some healing sessions there then too. So, and people can find you on Facebook and Instagram. Is it Aloha Health? Like, I forget exactly.
Yeah, it's Aloha Health and Wellness LLC is
Okay.
what it's under.
Okay. So that way they know where to find you to learn more about you or to follow you and all that. Thanks so much, Veronica. We'll see you next time.
Okay. Thank you, Karen.
Thanks so much for listening in today. I hope that this podcast inspired you and that you learned something new. Share this episode with a friend who you know would appreciate this perspective. And if you're so called, I'd love it if you could rate and review this show. For more information about me and my healing work, you can visit my website, rebalancewithreiki.com. And for more information about my storefront in Northern New Jersey, go to moonmagicwellness.com. Also, if you're interested in delving into the world of spiritual energy, I have an online course called Spiritual Seekers 101. You'll learn some of the basic foundational things about being an empath, protecting your energy, crystals, chakras, and psychic development. And there's an online community of other open spiritual seekers like you. There's a link in the show notes. Thanks again for being here, and I look forward to sharing our journey together.